Hey trainers, Alakaham here with some more Pokemon video magic, and we are coming to the end of another rotation of Virizion raids this past week, and I recently built a shiny Virizion and added some additional moves to it toward the end of this past season, so I thought in case there was anyone who was building a Virizion for the first time or debating whether you wanted to build one, maybe this video would help showcase some of the things that Virizion is capable of and can help you along in that decision making. Or if you already have a Virizion, maybe this will just make you nostalgic for all it can do in the Open Ultra League. So this is going to be a showcase of Virizion. I'm running a team of Registeel, Shiny Giratina Altered, and Shiny Virizion. So I've got Registeel up front, and basically the worst case scenario here is going to be running into a fighter. So I have Virizion to help take care of other fighters in the back. Also, ground and water types are not great, so Virizion helps with most of those as well. The Nidoqueen that we see here is a little bit challenging because, of course, the poison typing makes things a little bit tricky here. So I'm going for these Zap Cannons to try and keep decreasing the attack on the Nidoqueen, and I kind of just have to stay in here because I'm ABA weak to Nidoqueen, so I just have to let the Registeel go down and come in with the Giratina Altered here. I am going to get debuffed by Poison Fang. Giratina Altered is basically here to deal with miscellaneous threats like Nidoqueen. So there you go. I am able to finally take out that Nidoqueen, and then an XL Cofagrigus comes in, which is pretty cool. I haven't seen very many of those, but I think they're going to be becoming more and more popular, and I'm going to go ahead and give up that second shield here because Virizion doesn't really want anything to do with this Cofagrigus, and I'm pretty sure I can get at least one shield back by throwing these super effective Shadow Sneaks, yeah, especially now that I'm completely out of shields. This Cofagrigus is low enough, I can go ahead and just throw the Dragon Claw to chip as much damage as possible, maybe get that shield, and I do get the last shield. Unfortunately, they farm me down, so they have a lot of energy. I'm going to have to eat a Shadow Ball here. Fortunately, it wasn't Psychic. That would have had to be really bad to eat a Psychic, but it seems like they're not running that. They've probably got Dark Pulse. So they are low enough that I can take them out with a Leaf Blade, and lo and behold, in the back there is a Swampert, so there is some hope here. Got a super effective Leaf Blade going through. They do reach a move, but I'm a grass type, so I should resist this Hydro Cannon. Yeah, that is not nearly enough to take out the Virizion, so we are able to farm down the Swampert with Double Kick in the in the back there, coming in clutch. Oh yeah, I was playing this at a Starbucks and having trouble with Wi-Fi, so you probably noticed that I missed a couple of fast moves due to some lag there in that first battle, so I think these later battles are a little bit better about that. It's been a while since I recorded this, so I guess we'll kind of see. Okay, we have a Lycanroc on the lead, another spicy kind of play there, and my opponent brings in an Excadrill, aka they do not have an answer for Virizion, so we are going to start spamming Sacred Sword. We have got to 2 Sacred Swords before they get to 1 Drill Run, and Mudshot charges pretty fast, so I did have a little bit of an energy lead, but not much there. All of that to say that Virizion is going to outpace Excadrill, and I think I went ahead and double shielded because clearly Virizion is a problem for my opponent, so I'm going to keep Virizion as healthy as possible. If they are bringing in an Excadrill, that means that they do not have an answer here. So I expect my opponent is going to throw Psychic Fangs. This will do super effective damage, but it is non-stab, and my opponent is still very, very weak to fighting moves here. So I'm going to throw Sacred Sword and probably skip out. Yeah. Yep, bringing in the Giratina and another Swamper in the back. So it's good that I saved the Virizion. Although Giratina can do pretty well here, my opponent went ahead and conceded the match, which makes sense. Giratina would have taken a lot of energy from the Swamper to take out, and then they would have had to reach either an Earthquake or Sludge Wave, depending on what they were running, in order to take out my Virizion. So that was going to be very difficult for them to pull off there. Okay, Registeel into Snorlax. I'm pretty okay with this matchup. Virizion would be a better matchup, but I don't necessarily want to give up switch advantage yet. Usually I think I would go for the Zap Cannon here to try and lower the attack, but I probably got nervous. So we'll see if they throw the superpower. But it was Earthquake. That's kind of that's a bizarre thing to be running on Snorlax, because superpower will hit for super effective damage on most other Pokemon that are also weak to Earthquake, and Snorlax does not get stab on either, so I don't know, it almost feels wasted. When I bring in the Virizion to double kick Farm Down, my opponent quickly swaps into a Togekiss, which is not great. My whole back line does not like Togekiss. So I'm going to bring in the Reggie, and they probably could have farmed me down. I was just hoping that they would throw, which they did. I don't know why I shielded that. That was not great. I guess I was thinking that I could try and get to a Focus Blast and maybe fake them into thinking that I had a Zap Cannon loaded. I can't really afford to be shielding things here, though, and I guess this is just all going to be on Giratina. So the big Devil Dragon himself is going to be throwing some moves here, and I committed to the Farm Down, but not nearly quickly enough. One lick gets rid of my Giratina there, so that is not great. So that particular match definitely could have been played differently. I probably should have swapped into Virizion to begin with. I could have drawn out the Togekiss, and then I would have had the Registeel to deal with both. So this is actually a really good matchup. I'm staying in against the Cresselia because neither of my other Pokemon in the back really want to have to deal with Cresselia. Giratina can do okay against it, but that's not going to be Giratina's first preference because it will take super effective damage if the thing knows Moonblast, and it will take, neutral damage, and pretty heavy neutral damage if it knows Future Sight. So my opponent wanted to get out of there, which makes a lot of sense. They swapped in an Obstagoon, and it's an Obstruct Obstagoon at that. And so they are just taking the opportunity to lower my defense, which is fine because, Virizion is not going to have a great time against the Cresselia anyway, so we may as well make it easier to KO. But instead of Cresselia, my opponent brings in a Talonflame, which is actually really, really helpful to see here because that tells me I need my Giratina for the Talonflame, and I should not bring it in on the Cresselia yet. So Giratina here, and we're just going to be going for Dragon Claws because they get stab and we reach them faster. My opponent goes for Brave Bird immediately and then swaps. I did anticipate that swap, so I was ready to go ahead and jump into my Registeel. And I'm going to farm up... Oh, I figured I would farm up more. No, because this won't KO. Yeah, that's why I did that. So I was just going to chip some damage there. Not going to be shielding anything because I really need to protect the Giratina, right? So I'm going to go ahead and tank that Moonblast damage. Probably throw another Zap Cannon here, but I want to farm up extra just in case I might be able to get to a Zap Cannon against the Talonflame. It depends on how quickly they kind of ramp up their attack. But they actually let me get away with a lot there. So I am very nearly at the Zap Cannon. Yeah, so I think using the shield made a lot of sense. And we're just going to go ahead, and I thought that would one shot. That's such a bummer. That could have been a really fun boom, as Psionic says, but unfortunately we didn't quite have the one-hit KO. But that's all right. They gave me a chance to swap back into Shiny Giratina Altered, and we were able to Shadow Claw down. No charge moves required. Giratina Altered continues to be completely busted for the Open Ultra League. All right, so here we have a Walrein, which did get a little nerf this past season, which is probably good because it is, speaking of broken Pokemon, like really, really overpowered in my opinion. And I don't really have any strong answer to Walrein. The best I have is, of course, the Registeel, and Registeel will resist the ice attacks, but not a potential earthquake. So yeah, dealing with the Walrein there is going to be like a team effort, I think. So the idea here is going to be to farm down the Meganium, and it is pretty cool to see XL Meganium. It's very highly rated on PvPoke, but I haven't seen it very much. And I actually feel like I'm in a pretty good situation here because I can spam a Dragon Claw or two, but my health is low enough that they're not going to get like a super big amount of farm off of the Giratina here. The idea is to give them as little energy as possible, and I went ahead and swapped into the Registeel to try and force them to start using that energy. And I'm crossing my fingers that Virizion is going to have a lot of play here. So I want to go for the Zap Cannon to try and get that oh so valuable attack drop. My opponent does use their shield, which is nice. And it looks like they are ABA weak to fighting. So that's going to be fighting and grass, right? So that's going to be really, really good for my Virizion. Now, unfortunately, both of these Pokemon have potential Ice-type attacks to use, so that's not great for me. But this tells me... Oh yeah, I was trying to get them to throw their energy there, and they didn't, which is no good. But this tells me that my Virizion is going to have a lot of play here. So I figure this thing... Well, I guess I'm gambling that Ice Beam won't KO. Yeah, and actually I tank it pretty well. So that's happy about that. Virizion is actually quite beefy, so I'm happy that the angry red deer here is bulky. And that gave me the perfect amount of farm to get to the next Sacred Sword, the legacy move there. And unfortunately, my opponent gets to another move. If this is Ice Beam, this is going to get really dicey. But they were just trying to get guaranteed damage with a Surf. And that Surf is not enough, of course, to KO our bulky water type, grass type. What am I saying? Haven't had enough coffee today, but I think y'all get the picture. So I am able to take the win in the end there. In those circumstances, I actually think Leaf Blade might have been a better choice because I think it does more raw damage and they're both stab. So if both Sacred Sword and Leaf Blade are super effective, it's probably better to do Leaf Blade. But hey, we were able to pull off the win in the end regardless. So I have really loved using Virizion. I think it's great for the Open Ultra League, and I hope that y'all have success with it if you decide to catch some Virizion and build one yourselves. If you do, let me know how it goes. It would be nice to hear from you in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video content, go ahead and leave me a like. I would really, really appreciate it. And I'll have some more video content ready for you soon. I'll talk to you next time, trainers.